Let me begin this with something that genuinely surprised me. Recently, I was having a conversation at a cigar lounge in Marbella with a man who's done very well for himself. The kind of man who could walk into pretty much any watch dealer and buy almost anything without thinking twice about the price. At some point, our conversation drifted toward watches, as it often does when you put men like us in a cigar lounge. And then he said something I wasn't expecting. He told me that alongside his collection of genuine luxury watches, Rolexes, APs, the kind of pieces that collectors really care about, he also owns and regularly wears some fake watches. Not because he can't afford the real thing, not because he doesn't appreciate genuine craftsmanship, but because, in his words, it just makes more sense nowadays. That sentence stuck with me because it points to something much bigger than just a watch. Today, I want to explore why even wealthy men are wearing fake watches. What has changed culturally, psychologically, and economically, and why, despite all of the rationalizations, we believe this trend is a step in the wrong direction, and we'll explore what we should be doing instead. For most of modern history, a fake watch wasn't much of a story. They were worn by men who wanted to look richer than they were. A counterfeit Rolex was a pretty simple form of signaling. I want the appearance of success even if I don't have the substance. Now, a watch is much easier to fake than a car or a house. So for the aspirational social climber, the chronically insecure, or maybe both, then the value proposition made a lot of sense. But of course, if you were found out by a person of real wealth, of real success, that wasn't just embarrassing, that could actually damage your credibility, that you were wearing a fake watch. It marked you as somebody who was playing a character in life. And back then, fake watches were much easier to spot than they are now. But today, the men wearing fake watches aren't always young, broke, or aspirational. They are often business owners, even athletes, men who have genuine collections sitting at home. So the real question isn't who is wearing fake watches, it's this. What has changed about the world that makes wearing a fake watch feel reasonable, even rational, to a man who doesn't need to fake anything? And there isn't one answer to this question. In fact, there are several. The first reason is practical and uncomfortable. It's safety. In major cities, London, Paris, New York, LA, luxury watch theft has become disturbingly normal. Men are followed home from restaurants, targeted outside 5-star hotels, robbed in broad daylight, sometimes violently. Criminals know how to spot a luxury watch now more than ever. They know the models, they know the values, they know exactly what to look for on a wrist. And considering a luxury watch can now cost over $100,000, some men make a very cold, rational calculation. They say, I enjoy watches, but I don't enjoy being a moving target. So in that context, a fake watch becomes a kind of risk management. It looks bright, it satisfies that aesthetic urge, but if something happens, it's replaceable. This is probably the most sympathetic argument, and I totally understand it. But there is something important to notice. If safety were the issue, men would simply stop wearing expensive-looking watches, full stop. They'd wear a more humble watch that criminals had no interest in, because if the replicas are so hard to spot, then a criminal isn't going to know. And still, many men are choosing to wear a fake luxury watch rather than a genuine, affordable one. And that tells us that there's more going on here. This next reason is even more controversial. Fake watches are no longer the cheap rubbish they used to be. There are replicas today selling for $1,000, $2,000, even $3,000. They are marketed as super clones or one-to-one copies. They have the very same high-grade finish, the correct weight and balance, the perfect dimensions. They've even cloned the movements inside exactly. And to the vast majority of people, including watch enthusiasts, they are almost indistinguishable from the real thing. It's only when a professional cracks it open and looks inside that they can tell it's a fake. And this is changing the psychological equation of luxury watches entirely. Because once the object feels authentic, you begin to question what authenticity actually means. If the watch looks real and feels real and nobody can tell, then the question inevitably rises, what exactly am I paying for with the genuine piece? The logic of the luxury watch market is in jeopardy of quietly breaking down. Because watches were never just about the object. They are not a commodity. They are about meaning. They represent patience. They represent achievement. They represent personal milestones and delayed gratification. But when the physical difference between a real watch and a fake one disappears, men start confusing the appearance of success with the identity of success. And that shift is actually very costly. Another big change has occurred in the accessibility of these high-quality counterfeits. 20 or 30 years ago, buying a fake watch meant going to a physical market. It meant participating in shady transactions, potentially even having contacts among unsavory or potentially unsavory characters. There was a certain level of risk. Whereas now, it's as easy as ordering on Amazon. And there are entire online ecosystems that give reviews of replicas, they rank the factories, they compare the details, the micro details of the real watch versus the fake. And without that friction, there's less chance for a buyer to really question the morality of their purchase. When something is hard to obtain, you think twice about it. Whereas when it's easy, it's easier to rationalize. The internet hasn't just made fake watches more accessible, it's actually normalized them. It's reframed fakes or counterfeits as replicas and even positioned them as a rational purchasing decision. And when something is framed in that way, men stop asking the deeper questions. Now, this is where things get a bit more cultural. We are living through a time of what I would describe as watchflation. Social media has completely distorted the timeline of success for men. Luxury used to be something that men grew into with age. You bought your first serious watch in your 30s or 40s after you had built something, or either you or an important person in your life decided to reward you for an achievement. But today, young men are constantly exposed to influencers wearing six-figure timepieces, 20-somethings flexing their Royal Oaks or Daytonas. Luxury is presented more as a baseline rather than a reward. And as a result, a young man who is patient starts to feel instead like a failure. Instead of earning these symbols over time, there is a pressure to show status immediately. This fake it till you make it mentality is all over our current culture right now, and you are seeing it applied to the luxury timepiece market. The watch has stopped becoming a reflection of life for young men. It's now a vain symbol. It's like a peacock showing its feathers. The watch no longer represents a milestone. It's more a symbol of belonging, like a VIP wristband at a nightclub. Psychologically, I think this is very dangerous, because when status becomes something that you exhibit rather than something that you embody, that creates a very anxious and insecure state of existence. Now, I don't think the luxury watch brands here deserve to feel too sorry for themselves, because let's talk about the buying experience of a genuine expensive watch. Even for men with real money, buying some of these watches has become exhausting. There are waiting lists, there's gatekeeping, you have to play relationship games with your dealer, there are these unspoken rules. You can't just buy the watch, it's like you have to audition for it. And although this process does contribute to the feeling of exclusivity, many successful men find this process irritating, disrespectful of their time, and just completely unnecessary. They don't want to have to beg a sales associate for the privilege of spending tens of thousands of dollars. They don't want to buy a bunch of other watches that they don't even really want, just in the hope that 3 years later, their dealer will call them and tell them they have a gold Daytona and they have to come and get it in 48 hours. So instead of playing this game, some successful men are just opting out. It's not because they lack money, it's because they lack patience for nonsense. The replica is a way to skip the queue and get many of the perks without the headache. This is how fake watches stopped being about aspiration and simply a matter of convenience. I do think there is one justification to buying a fake watch, and that is just to test out the style. Before splurging all that money, you want to know if that watch suits you and if it suits your lifestyle. On the surface, this sounds pretty reasonable, but if you're buying a replica to experiment with the style and there's no chance that you will realistically be able to buy one of those anytime soon, then what you're doing is still just representing a status that you haven't yet claimed. That line between experimenting and faking becomes rather blurred. And that matters deeply because what you wear shapes how you see yourself and how you carry yourself. At Gentleman's Collective, we believe in authenticity. A fake watch doesn't just copy a design, it copies a narrative, it copies a legacy. If you don't want to wear an expensive watch because of safety, of practicality, or simply because you're not there yet, that's totally okay. There are many excellent, well-made watches at far more reasonable prices, and they offer real craftsmanship, they offer a warranty, and they give you a transparent relationship with what you're wearing. They send a simple message that this is where I am, and I'm comfortable with it. That message is far more powerful than any kind of borrowed or insecure status seeking. Luxury used to be a reward for patience. Today, it's become a rush to flex on others. But the men who win in the long term are always the same. They don't rush milestones. They don't outsource their confidence to a brand, and they don't wear successes they haven't earned yet. If this video made you think differently about watches or status, I invite you to join our weekly newsletter, The Gentleman's Digest. Every week, I share an exclusive editorial piece with our readers, along with a recommendation on what to wear, what to watch, what to read, and what to listen to. You'll find the link in the description.